What's up, everyone? Welcome to the FA podcast. Just me today, so go pretty quickly like it usually does when that's the case. But yeah, a lot of stuff going on. We got the UFL kicking off very shortly, in about half an hour here. The first game of the 2025 UFL season, St. Louis and Houston, getting us kicked off in Houston at TDCU Field, or stadium there. But yeah, I got my DC Defenders shirt on. I'm ready to go. And of course, we have our mock draft series continuing today as well. Cardinals, Falcons. So we will pick those also. Let's get to the news here real quick. College football news. Couple things. Stanford firing head coach Troy Taylor after just a couple seasons in Palo Alto. 23 and 24 was not very good. 3-9 each season. Never won 2 conference games each year. 2-7 in the Pac-12 in 2023, and 2-6 in the ACC this past year. So 6-18, 4-13 in conference play overall. Just was not able to bring the success from Sacramento State that he had there, which it was always a tough job. And once I think Andrew Luck got installed as the GM for the Cardinal, I think they kind of sat back, reviewed the program, and decided Coach Taylor was not the person to lead them forward into the next era of Cardinal football there. So yeah, we'll see. It's an interesting time to have a coaching change, just like we saw in the UFL with DC and Memphis. Luckily, Stanford is not changing head coaches right before the season, the week of the first game. But it is difficult as we have the spring transfer portal window coming up soon in April. And, we have spring games coming up shortly also. Colorado, they have signed head coach Deion Sanders, 5 years, $54 million extension there for Coach Prime. Excellent deal. One of the highest paid coaches in college football now, doubled his salary essentially from last season. So very well regarded and has brought the Buffaloes back for sure. Couple transfer portal notes. I mentioned that is opening in a few weeks here or next week. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact date, but Georgia State running back Freddie Brock, pretty solid player in the portal. He has visits set up with Temple, Sam Houston, UMass, and Western Kentucky. And then the big one today, mentioned the Troy Taylor news with Stanford. Stanford edge rusher David Bailey has entered the transfer portal. Probably the best player that Stanford has, besides Alec Manor, who's going to the draft this year at wide receiver. David Bailey, excellent pass rusher, 14.5 sacks the last 2 years combined, and has the first step quickness you want to see. And I really enjoyed watching David Bailey's tape. But yeah, we will see where he ends up in the portal. UFL news. Couple things for this weekend's game. Showboats tight end wide receivers coach TJ Vernieri. He will be calling the plays after head coach Ken Wisenhunt retired, who was also the offensive coordinator. So Vernieri will call the plays with close inspection from interim head coach Jim Turner as well. And the Defenders, big time losses coming for them in 2026. Going to be a whole new staff essentially. Expected to lose interim head coach Shannon Harris, offensive coordinator Fred Keiss, and defense coordinator Greg Williams to Tennessee State, heading to the Tigers there with new head coach Reggie Barlow. Former head coach Reggie Barlow, I should say, for the Defenders. Starting QBs, couple battles. There were a couple teams we knew who the quarterbacks were going to be. DC was going to be Jordan Ta'amu the whole time. Arlington, you knew it was going to be Luis Perez. And San Antonio, I mentioned last show that Kellen Mond had been selected as the starting QB there. So the other 5 teams, though, were kind of up in the air with QB battles. So the Roughnecks, They are going with Anthony Brown over Nolan Henderson. Both QBs expected to play. The Battlehawks, they're going to go with Manny Wilkins over Max Duggan. The Memphis Showboats, they are rolling with former Michigan Panthers quarterback E.J. Perry and against his former team, which is an interesting dynamic there. He won over Troy Williams, and Williams expected to play as well. And then Alex McGough returns, the 2023 USFL MVP, returns to Birmingham this year after a couple years in the league in the NFL, and he will be the starting QB for the Stallions on Sunday. NFL news, the Ravens locking up head coach John Harbaugh today, extending his deal 3 more years through the 2028 season. So Coach Harbaugh sticking around in Baltimore for a couple more years, one of the longest tenured, I think the longest tenured head coach in the league. I can't remember. Draft news. So at the top of the board, Titans, Browns. They are working out the quarterbacks. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders both expected to have private workouts with those two teams there in the coming week. Big time release today. The Patriots releasing linebacker Jawan Bentley, longtime mainstay in the middle of the Patriots defense. And kind of surprising Mike Vrabel did not want to keep a player like that in his defense. Free agent signings, the Patriots, they made a splash. They signed Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs, 3 years, $69 million, $26 million guaranteed there, on track to play week 1 after he tore his ACL this season. I was shocked at the numbers, 23 a year for a 30-year-old, 31-year-old wide receiver coming off a torn ACL. That's a lot of money for me. I know the Patriots had a ton this offseason, but I'm not so sure that deal's going to work out. I know it's only $26 million guaranteed, so 23 this year likely, and $3 million next season. But yeah, it's a big risk for me. I would not have paid that much money for the guy that I just described, 31 years old, coming off torn ACL, and had lost a step before that, anyways. The Giants got a quarterback. They signed Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson, 1 year, $21 million, $10.5 million guaranteed there for Russell Wilson to go to the Giants. And I don't know. I don't know what the Steelers were doing. They could have matched that, definitely, I feel like. And Russ decided to go to New York, and doesn't preclude the Giants from drafting a quarterback at 3 at all. And we will talk about that when we do the Giants mock draft in a couple of shows. But yeah, I don't think the Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson signings preclude the drafting of a quarterback at all. The Jets, they signed Broncos wide receiver Josh Reynolds to a 1 year, $5 million deal. New GM Darren Moogie, familiar with Reynolds from his time in Denver there as the assistant GM, so brings him in as a veteran presence, wide receiver room. The Ravens, they signed Titans corner Chidobe Awuzie to a 1 year minimum veteran minimum contract there. Still owed $7.5 million from Tennessee after they released him this offseason. So he is playing on the vet minimum for Baltimore, getting $7.5 million to not play for the Titans this year. The Raiders, they signed former Panthers tight end Ian Thomas, and the Titans, they signed Giants quarterback Tim Boyle. One visit to note, the Raiders and the Panthers hosted former Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, just 29 years old still, did not play in 2024, but looking to make a comeback, wants to play in 2025. So Renfrow could be back with Vegas or potentially in Carolina or somewhere else. We will see. All right, let's get to the UFL season preview here. So here are our UFL championship picks. Christian, new picker on the show, had him on an Indy. He is going with the San Antonio Brahmas and Wade Phillips, Kellen Mond over the back-to-back-to-back. If you count the two USFL championships, they are going for a four-peat, the Birmingham Stallions. 3 out of the 4 of us have Birmingham winning the USFL conference. Jimmy, he is going with the St. Louis Battlehawks. Manny Wilkins and Anthony Becht The Battlehawks looking to upset the Stallions there. Danny Potter, he is a new picker this year as well for UFL. He is going with my DC Defenders over my Memphis Showboats. Interesting choice there. And I am going with the Birmingham Stallions over the Arlington Renegades. Those were the two teams I mentioned on Monday's show. That those are the teams I have as the top of each conference. And I don't know. It's hard to not pick Birmingham until they lose, right? So I'm saying they four-peat. This roster is absolutely stacked. Even if Alex Magoo goes down with injury, they have a guy that just led them to a championship last year in Matt Corral. So I don't think it matters who's playing quarterback for this team. They have too many weapons on both sides of the ball. The only questionable thing is maybe kicker. That's probably the only questionable thing you can say about Birmingham's roster is the kicker position with rookie kicker Harrison Mevis coming in. But other than that, I mean, they are stacked at every single position. So that's why I'm going with Birmingham. I don't see anyone having being able to unseat this roster here. But let's get into each game here. Starting off with the Battlehawks tonight in about 18 minutes, 3.5-point favorites at the Houston Roughnecks. And Christian giving us our first lone wolf game. Roughnecks, of course, he knows Houston well in Texas there. But, I'm going with St. Louis. I don't like the quarterbacks in this one at all. Anthony Brown / Nolan Henderson. Manny Wilkins. I don't think Max Duggan's going to really play a ton. But what I do believe in is this St. Louis defense. Look what they have up front. Pita Tamapenu, former XFL Defensive Player of the Year with the Vegas Vipers in 2020. Austin Faulu, Freedom Akin Moladun. Tatala Pesafea, TJ Pesafea there. Travis Feeney, a monster on the outside as well. The linebackers I love: Mike Rose, Willie Harvey, Callahan O'Reilly, Olakunle Fatukasi. The secondary is elite as well: Brandon Sebastian and Chris Payton-Jones at corner. You got NFL experience with Nate Meters, Quinterio Cole, and Cameron Kelly at safety there. And Lucas Dennis at safety also. So I love this St. Louis defense. I don't see it on the Houston defense. I think they're pretty solid as well, but I just don't believe in Anthony Brown, unfortunately. And the weapons he has to work with, I'm not so sure. I don't know anything about the running back. Lorenzo Lingard is getting the start tonight for Houston. The wide receivers are decent. Kiki Chisholm, Justin Hall, excellent players in their own right. Emmanuel Butler, TJ Vasher as well. Josh Peterson, I really like him. Doug Peterson's son there. But I think the weapons on St. Louis side give Manny Wilkins a better shot. Jacob Sailors is an elite running back. Jake Sutherland, excellent at tight end. Hakeem Butler, Ja'Cour Pearson, they are studs. Ja'Cour Pearson specifically, but Butler balled out last year as well. And then Frank Darby hasn't really gotten a chance to be a starter a ton, but they also have Denzel Mims, Blake Jackson, and Gary Jennings. Love that 6-man wide receiver crew that St. Louis has going tonight. And for what it's worth, the special teams battle, I think, is pretty even, actually. I'm going to go with St. Louis just because they have Ja'Cour Pearson as a punt returner. Justin Halls is a pretty solid punt returner as well. I like the kicker matchup to potentially swing toward Houston with Chris Blewett over my guy Rodrigo Blankenship for St. Louis, making his first start. But the punter matchup, I think, definitely in favor of St. Louis. Sterling Hoffrichter versus Mike Rivers. making his first start. And then the long snapper also goes to St. Louis. Continuity with Alex Matheson over new long snapper Marco Ortiz for Houston. So that's why I like St. Louis. Just quick review of the roster there. And that's why I really like St. Louis as the third team in the XFL conference, just because of the defense and the quarterback is the only question mark I have for St. Louis when it pertains to conference rankings there. The total here is 37.5. Look, I like all four unders this weekend, pretty much. It's the first week, and usually the unders hit. Especially, I like this in this game. I mentioned the defenses for both sides. I think they should be really solid play defensively tonight and throughout the weekend. 8 p.m. on Fox, 13 minutes away. The San Antonio Brahmas at the Arlington Renegades kicking us off tomorrow. Christian going again with there for our guy Christian, and this was his XFL champion and UFL XFL conference champion and UFL champion. So it makes sense that he would pick San Antonio. And look, partially I'm going with the quarterback, Luis Perez, the quote unquote spring of king of spring. Goodness, I cannot talk right now. King of spring. He leads this Bob Stoops squad into Arlington this weekend, and he's got some good players with him. Kalen Balaj at running back, Day Hunter, Davion Smith. Sal Cannella at tight end is probably the best tight end in the league. Deontay Burnett, Isaiah Winston, Tyler Vaughns, Javante Payton, Deontay Burnett, Luan Winningham. Excellent players there around Luis Perez. And I just haven't seen it from Kellen Mond, former third-round pick of the Minnesota Vikings a couple years ago. Have not seen it work out so far. We'll see if it does for San Antonio here. But until I see it work, I'm not trusting it from Wade Phillips' squad. Excellent coaching matchup, by the way. And John Lovett, I haven't been as impressed with him. I do like the other running backs, though. Anthony McFarland, explosive as it comes. Ja'Shawn Corbin had a couple years with the Giants, pretty solid. Alize Mack, one of the better tight ends in the league. And then the wide receivers. Jonte Kirkland is fantastic, maybe the best receiver in the league. Greg Ward, also very veteran player. Justin Smith and Marquez Stevenson, pretty solid. Racey McMath is guys at NFL experience. The one guy I'm not sure, Jacob Harris, tight end, wide receiver hybrid. He's playing wide receiver for San Antonio. I'm just not sure. The defense, I love the defense for Arlington. You talk about the Willie Taylor and Will Clark, Tuzar Skipper, Chris Odom on the outside rushing, Davion Nixon inside along with LaRon Stokes, Keon Bars, like those guys. The linebackers are fantastic. Story Jackson and Donald Payne. I like the secondary, not as much, but the safeties are pretty solid. Jamal Carter, Joe Powell, Miles Dorn, and Jamar Summers. Jenny Harris, Stephen Jones, excellent at corner there. For San Antonio, the defense is good. Kavion Patton, I'm really good fan of his, along with Prince Emili and Jacob Sykes up front. The Garrett Nelson is a really solid player on the outside linebacker there. Tavante Beckett and Jordan Williams, probably the best linebacking duo in the league. And the secondary leaves me some question marks there. Corey Mayfield, Greedy Williams comes in as NFL veteran. Darius Phillips as well. Jordan Mosley is pretty solid at safety. Bo Peep Keys as well. But I don't know. I just don't. Not so sure. I think Luis Perez is going to have a good day against this secondary, and I think it's going to be another lower scoring one, but I trust Luis Perez over Kellen Mond in this game here, especially since it's at home. 3 points for San Antonio. Christian's the only one on the favorite there, and I'm on the under again, 37.5 under 4 p.m. on Fox tomorrow. And we have a doubleheader on Sunday. We got the Michigan Panthers against at the Memphis Showboats. It's a split. Christian, Danny on the Memphis Showboats. Danny had Memphis winning the USFL conference this year, so it makes sense. Jimmy and I, we are together on all 4 picks, and we are on Michigan in this one. This one also sort of comes down to quarterback. Look, I like E.J. Perry a little bit over Bryce Perkins. Perkins filled in for Perry last year. So did Danny Etling, the backup, who's expected to play a little bit also, as is Troy Williams, the backup for Perry on the Showboats. But Bryce Perkins, a dynamic quarterback, played very well last year with Michigan. And to be honest, I just think the coaching change is going to detrimentally impact the Memphis Showboats offensively. So while they do have a really solid roster, I think Jonathan Adams at wide receiver, Kamari Laster, Eli Stove, Isaiah Henney, J.J. Wilson at tight end. I just think Michigan's in a better boat. Gunnar Oaks at tight end, Marcus Sims, Siosi Mariner, Malik Turner, Devin Ross, Samson Nakua, Cole Hicatini at tight end as well. Running backs, Nate McCurry and Matt Colburn. Running backs, Deneric Prince and Jalen Jackson from Memphis. I'm just not sure. I think Michigan gets this one, and I don't know if they cover. They might, but this Showboat's defense is really solid, though. Boogie Roberts, John Atkins, Josiah Bronson, PJ Hall, DeMarcus Mitchell, those guys up front should eat this run game alive, I think. Nasir Player and is a solid outside rusher. That's the question mark, I think, for this team is where's going to the outside pass rush going to come from. I love Steel Chambers, former Ohio State Buckeye, at linebacker there. And the secondary is pretty elite. Eli Walker at safety, along with Keaton Ellis, Mark Gilbert, Lance Boykin, Eric Garr, Kyrie Woods, Nehemiah Shelton at corner. So I really like the secondary and the front 3, the middle of the defense, and the outside line. The linebacking core is a big question mark, I think, for Memphis. And for Michigan defensively, it's solid for sure. Rondale Carter, Walter Palmore, Garrett Marino, Breland Speaks, Kenny Willekes, TJ Carter, Mika Tafua up front, Noah Dawkins and Frank Ginda, Javin White, probably the best trio of linebackers in the league. And then you look at the secondary, you got Kedrick Whitehead, Kenny H. Lovely, Arnold Tarpley, Kai Nakua, Adonis Alexander, Bryce Tornaden, Levante Taylor, Tyree Gillespie. So, yeah, I mean, defensively, I think Michigan is one of the better squads under Mike Nolan. Question mark for Michigan, though, is going to be kicking BT Potter in his first game with the Panthers. So I lean on Michigan minus 6.5. Totals 38.5. Again, I like the under in this one. 12 p.m. ESPN and ESPN Plus. And finally, the final game, forgot to change the heading there, but it is the Birmingham Stallions, 7.5-point favorites at the DC Defenders. Danny, lone wolfing Defenders. He them win the XFL conference this year, so no surprise there. But unfortunately, my DC Defenders are going to run into a buzzsaw in week 1. Because, again, I just do not see people under – I don't know how people are going to beat this roster. Alex McGough at quarterback. You got Ricky Person, CJ Marable returning at running back. Jordan Thomas back at tight end, as is Jay Sternberger. Deion Kane, Davion Davis, Austin Watkins. Jalen Camp has NFL experience, as does Amari Rogers, Marlon Williams, all back. So that offense is stacked. And then you turn over to the Birmingham defense. It's like, good Lord, Ronnie Perkins, Perry and Winfrey, Carlos Davis, Bradley and Nye, Marvin Wilson, and Willie Yarbury up front. Linebackers, Kiava Tizino, Tay Crowder. Secondary is looking good as well. Mario Goodrich, Daniel Isom, Trey Norwood, Kenny Robinson, Stephen Gilmore, Madre Harper, Rashad Wildgoose, JoJo Tillery. So it's just stacked at every single position there. Yeah. And then let's go to the DC side here. I love Jordan Ta'amu. I think he's an excellent quarterback. It's not as detrimental losing their head coach, as I think it was for Memphis, because Memphis, Ken Wisenhunt also called the offensive plays. Luckily for DC, they still have offense coordinator Fred Keiss and defense coordinator Greg Williams in the building calling plays. So not as big of a deal Shannon Harris has to deal with. But love getting Abram Smith back. Him and Deion Jackson, I think, are going to have a solid pairing this year for DC. Briley Moore's back at tight end. They got some better wide receivers. Cornell Powell, Chris Rowland, and Ty Scott both return. And then they also added Jaden Mickens with NFL experience as well. Defensively for DC, it's not as good as it has been, I don't think. But up front, Derek Roberson, Joe Wallace, Dennis Johnson, and Malik Fisher are all solid. Niall Scott as well. Andre Mincy at the end. Linebackers, really like the linebackers. Momo Sonogo, Anthony Hines, and Farad Garner. Secondary, DeAndre Baker, Bryce Thompson, Monte Nicholson, Deontay Anderson, and Kelvin Joseph. They also have Keandre Thomas and Sam Kidd back there as well. So, yeah, I like this DC squad. It's just going to be a tough thing to overcome the head coaching loss the week of. And, they're going up against the back-to-back-to-back defending champs. Luckily, it's not in Birmingham, because that would be skyrocket that spread there. But I don't know. DC might be able to cover. I don't think they will, but I lean on Birmingham minus 7.5. Total 41.5. It's the only one in the 40s this weekend. I would lean over, but I'm hesitant to take it because of just week one is usually a lot of unders. So lean over 41.5. 3 p.m. ESPN and ESPN Plus on Sunday. So again, what I saw here in the four games, and in terms of my overall rankings, I have in the USFL conference, Birmingham is my number 1. I think Michigan is my number 2. I have Memphis as my number 3 and Houston as my 4th. In the XFL conference, I have Arlington at number 1. I have St. Louis at number 2, DC at number 3, and San Antonio at number 4, I think. All right, enough about the UFL. As that game is actually kicking off right now, so make sure to tune in. Make sure you dual screen here with Fox and the podcast here, so you can catch the Houston Roughnecks and the St. Louis Battlehawks game going on while we finish the show up here. But Cardinals, Falcons mock draft. Falcons losing their 3rd-round pick to the Patriots for Matt Judon right before the season happened. But they have 15 and 46 in the 1st and 2nd. They're both own picks there. Cardinals have all 3 of their own, 16, 47, and 78. So let's get to the mock sim here. Got it loaded. Cards, Falcons. And let's see what we got here. Crazy or not, Titans, Cam Ward. Ashton Genty. Okay, we're getting crazy. To the Browns. Armand Membu to the Giants. Patriots going Abdul Carter. Jags going Will Johnson. Okay. Raiders getting Travis Hunter. Jets going Shador Sanders, I would have to think. Mason Graham. Okay. Panthers going Tedero McMillan. Where is Shador going? The Cowboys again. Shamar Stewart. Bengals coming up 17, 49, and 119. Will Campbell to the Bears. Jalen Walker for the 49ers. Shador Sanders, the Cowboys. 2nd show in a row. Okay. Kelvin Banks for the Dolphins. Colts going Tyler Warren as expected. And we are on the clock with the Falcons here. Philly, I would love to do it, but unfortunately, we don't have a 3rd-round pick, and we need that. New England is offering 2 3rd-round picks, 2nd and a 2nd next year, which could be very, very good. But not going to do that there probably this time. Um, let's see what we got with Atlanta, though. Atlanta, I had, again, February 17th. I haven't updated these yet, but Edge Rush as my number one. And they did an okay job of trying to fix that. Leonard Floyd comes in to add to Arnold Ebiketie and Braylon Trice, D'Angelo Malone, guys they drafted highly in 2022 in Malone and Ebiketie in 24 for Braylon Trice. But they still need a guy. They need a guy to get them over the top. I still think edge is a need. We'll see if it's the number one need or not. But next, I have corner. Corner, they really didn't do anything. Keith Taylor they added, but Mike Hughes, AJ Terrell, Clark Phillips. AJ Terrell is obviously a stud. Mike Hughes has played pretty solid for them. I still think they could upgrade there. Safety, I think they did pretty well with adding Jordan Fuller. DeMarco Helms has been a pretty solid player as a 7th rounder in 23. Not sold on that depth, though. Wide receiver, I think definitely needs to be upgraded. Darnell Mooney's okay. Ray McLeod is a special teams guy. They added Jamal Agnew. Casey Washington, a 6th rounder last year. They added Kadero Hodge as well, or they re-signed Kadero Hodge, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that they could still add to that unit. Tackle, I think I put that because of the depth, but they re-signed Storm Norton. They got Jake Matthews signed to an extension. They signed Caleb McGarry, re-signed Caleb McGarry. They got Brandon Parker still. So I like the tackles. So I'm okay with the tackles that they got now. Offensive tackle depth is what I had there. So yeah, I'm okay with the tackles. What will become a need is backup quarterback if Kirk Cousins is gone, which it doesn't look like he is yet. So I don't know. I would also look potentially to a tight end upgrade for depth. I'm not sold on Charlie Warner being the second guy. They did sign Tegan Quintoriano and Felipe Franks, but neither of those guys has really been an excellent player in their own right there. Linebackers they're solid. Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, Divine Diabo, JD Bertrand. Love that foursome in there. Yeah. So let's get to the Falcons pick here. And yeah, we're not trading for either of those. So I was actually okay with all of my picks here, but I think while Malachi Starks is technically ranked ahead of Michael Williams, I think it has to be Michael. They need to get a guy at pass rush. I mean, look at Michael, 6'5", 260, fantastic size for a 3-4 outside linebacker. James Pierce also on the board, 6'5", 245, a little bit leaner. But I like Michael. I think he can do a lot of different things, slide inside on third down as well, potentially. So give me Michael Williams. The interior D-line depth is something to look at as well with Grady Jarrett moving elsewhere. Morgan Fox was added. He's a journeyman, though. They do have Zach Harrison, who they drafted in the 3rd round of 2023. And yeah, but I like adding Michael here, keeping a Georgia boy in the state and giving a dynamic pass rusher. And for Atlanta here, for Arizona, I should say, not Atlanta. For Arizona, we got to offer Chargers. That's pretty solid. 6 picks, 55, 158. 2nd rounder next year for New Orleans for 1 pick. I like that. Let's go through what I have for the Cardinals first here. Wide receiver. I still think wide receiver is a need. They need some people around Marvin Harrison. Michael Wilson's a pretty solid 3rd guy. He was asked to be the number 2. Zay Jones didn't give him much when they added him in during the season. And the only thing they did last year, other than Harrison, was draft Taywan Palmer in the 6th round. Didn't really play. Greg Dortch coming off injury as well, potentially. I do like Xavier Weaver, a free agent, undrafted free agent out of Colorado last year. But I still think wide receiver could be a need. Edge rusher. Edge rusher is not as much of a need anymore. With the signing of Josh Sweat, and they have Baron Browning, who they got in a trade from Denver last year, BJ Ojulari, 23 second, and of course Zaven Collins as well. So I like the pass rush that they have now. Linebacker is not as big of a need anymore either. They added Michael Walker and Akeem Davis Gaither to add to Mac Wilson and Owen Papo, 23 fifth rounder there. So I kind of like the linebackers. Potentially could use upgrades though, to Mac Wilson. Interior D line, they added Dalvin Tomlinson from the Browns, Justin Jones, Robinson. They're the first rounder last season. Bilal Nichols, Dante Stills, LJ Collier. Yeah, it's pretty solid. We'll see if they want to add anything to that. And then the other thing I have is QB2, which they got. They added Jacoby Brissett. So um, it's a decent roster, actually. I would look for upgrades to the interior line depth. They drafted John Gaines in the fourth round a couple years ago, but I don't like the guard depth at all. They have Christian Jones, fifth rounder last year, as the swing tackle. And yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at wide receiver essentially, and potentially linebacker or O line potentially. Um, what do they have as the needs here? Edge, D tackle, wide receiver, guard, yeah, linebacker. Okay, yeah, let's take. I'm not really that picky on who's on the board here. I mean, Matthew Golden, sure, but you have Tyler Booker still available down there, that could potentially compete with Evan Brown at right guard. You also have a pass rusher in James Pierce. You also have a safety in Malachi Starks, and Nicky Manwari. You have an interior D line and Derek Harmon. So I don't think moving down 6 for the Chargers is a good move, but I do like getting a second round pick for a team that I don't think is going to be that good next year in the Saints, to move one spot. So I will accept the Saints offer, and of course they're going to draft Matthew Golden, which is fine. Lions want to come up a bunch of spots for one second round pick. That's not happening. Jags, sorry. And yeah, no, Washington. So I think we're going to stick here. I think we're going to stick with Arizona. And what I'm going to do, though, now, Jihad Campbell, I think, could be fantastic in the middle of this defense. But what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to get Kyler some more protection here. They don't really need it, per se. And what I would say is the interior D line probably should be the thing to go to with what the roster looks like right now. But I'm telling you, I'm a big fan of Tyler Booker, and if he can slide in and compete with Evan Brown at left guard, I think that's a big deal. It's never bad to have more linemen as well. Jihad Campbell definitely an option here. As is, I think, Malachi Starks. I like the safeties that they have: Buda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Dadrian Taylor Demerson, who they drafted in the fourth round last year, Jamie Robinson, as well. So I don't know. This is a difficult decision. I could see going James Pierce. I don't think edge rush is as big of a need, as many other people think. But I actually think I'm going to talk myself into it. I'm going to go Derek Harmon. I don't know why. Justin Jones, the only real weak link, I think. But I like the interior D line. My gut said Tyler Booker, but I'm going to, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go Tyler Booker. I don't care. Seahawks go Malachi Starks because we took their pick. Nick Eamon-Worry, back-to-back safeties, go to the Bucks. Emeka Egbuka for the Broncos. Steelers going Derek Harmon. That's a fantastic fill in for Cam Hayward. Colson Lovell and Michigan man go to the Jim Harbaugh Chargers. James Pierce to the Packers. Siobhan Revel to the Vikings. Josh Simmons to the Texans. That's a popular pick. 49ers, Jahdae Barron, 43, a second and a third next year. 49ers coming up. Nick Scorton for the Ravens. Luther Burden, Patriots, 38, 69, 144. Jod Campbell to the Commanders. I was thinking about coming up with Arizona, but that's a long place come up. Donovan Ezra-Walker to the Bills. And the Bills come back up again to get Walter Nolan, 56, 62, and 109. Donovan Jackson for the Eagles. Excellent. Jalen Milroe to the Browns. Giants going Gray Zabel. Titans going Mike Green. O'Marion Hampton for the Jags. Jalen Noel to the Raiders. Jaden Higgins for the Lions. Quinshon Judkins for the Bears. Ben Morrison for the Saints. Chargers coming up for Kenneth Grant, 55 and 86. Ariante Ursary for the Jets. Rams going Mason Taylor. Cam Williams for the Cowboys. And the Colts going Travion Henderson. So we're back on the board with Atlanta. Dolphins offering a fourth rounder to move up 2 spots. Sorry, Chiefs, we are not doing that. So we got Michael Williams, I think was a home run selection. This is the only pick we have left, unless we trade down. But and I might be okay with trading down. Atlanta, we got an edge rush. We got I like corner as the next one. I thought all of my February 17th ones pretty solid still in terms of needs that I had. I think a lot of them are still a thing. So yeah, I mean, corner, we have one available. Trey Amos. I know Daniel Jeremiah is very high on him. But we also have a defensive lineman that should not be here. Tyleik Williams definitely should not be here at this point. And while I don't have interior D-line as a big need, it could be potentially. However, I like going corner. Corner is much more of a need than the value is here. So I like going Trey Amos here with Atlanta. And actually, since Landon Jackson's available and Xavier Watts, I'm going to take the trade offer, 4th round pick, move back 2 spots here with Miami. And they come up for Tate Ratledge. All right, we're on with the Cardinals. Before being on with the Falcons again, St. Louis getting the ball first for as the home team gets to decide who gets the ball first in the UFL. But back on with the Cards here, and we got a 2nd round pick next year from New Orleans. Tyler Booker. For Atlanta. And I'm going to be selfish. I traded back with the Falcons. And actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to get the Cardinals a wide receiver because they need it badly. Trey Harris would pair perfectly with Marvin Harrison, 6'2", 205. Yeah, Michael Wilson as well. You got a big wide receivers out there in Arizona. So I like Trey Harris. He's got speed to match it as well. So give me Trey Harris for Arizona here. No, yeah. No, I'm going to go Tyleik Williams. I think building up the front, yeah, that makes more sense for Arizona. Atlanta back on the board here, not accepting that one. And this is where I think we picked up a 4th-round pick, and we can still get Trey Amos. Have to build that secondary up if they are the Atlanta Falcons. And I think corner makes a ton of sense here. So give me Trey Amos for the Atlanta Falcons. Saints going Landon Jackson. Josh Connolly to the Seahawks. JT Tuimoloau out to the Broncos. Trey Harris. Titans coming up 103, 120 in a second next year for 52. Carson Schlesinger to the Bucks. Jonas Avainea to the Packers. Jared Ivey for the Bears. Jared Wilson for the Chiefs. Panthers going Marcus Bowe. Wyatt Millam to the Texans, building that offensive line back. Emory Jones to the Ravens. Kyle Kennard for the Lions. Washington going Caleb McGarry. Braden Swinson to the Chiefs. Barrett Carter for the Chiefs. Eagles going TJ Sanders. Giants going Jackson Dart. He's not going to be there. Deion Walker. Jags coming up 70, 142. Elike Omanor for the Browns. Xavier Watts. I was just going to pause it. Xavier Watts to the Raiders. Lions going Darian Porter. Andrew Makuba for the Chiefs. Elijah Arroyo for the Saints. Chris Paul for the Bears. All right, we got a couple guys. Jack Bech to the Jets. Panthers going Denzel Burke. 49ers, Princely Umanmielen. Cowboys going Jalen Royals. And the Patriots, they are going Johnny Cornelius. So we have all the guys that I wanted available. Rams, we are not making that trade. We're definitely not making that trade, Washington. So we have all the guys that I wanted to be here. And it's fantastic because we got trench guys in the first 2 picks based off value. Tyler Booker, Tyleik Williams, I thought were excellent picks for the Arizona Cardinals. We also picked up a 2nd-round pick from New Orleans next year, who I think is going to be not that good. So what do we have left here? We got a front 7 guy on each one. I don't believe edge is as big of a need for Arizona. I love going Isaiah Bond here. Needed some speed at wide receiver and some just upgrade, to be honest. Azariah Thomas, Maxwell Hairston, both would be fantastic selections as well. Finishing out here, Gunnar Helm to the Texans. There the Bucks come up for Maxwell Hairston, 84 and a 5th. Next year, Azariah Thomas to the Bengals. Jordan Birch for the Seahawks. Steelers going Josiah Stewart. Colts, Ashton Gelati. Broncos going Kevin Winston. Bears going Kyle Williams. Dorian Strong for the Packers. Jonas Sanker for the Jags. Tez Johnson to the Texans. Dolphins come up for Alfred Collins, 98 and 155. Omar Norman Lott, 49ers coming up 100 and 147. DJ Giddens for the Seahawks. Dylan Fairchild for the Saints. Lathan Ransom for the Browns. Ozzie Trapilo for the Chiefs. Terrence Ferguson for the Eagles. Cam Scadaboo for the Vikings. Rams going Torrey Horton. Shamar Turner for the Giants. Harold Fannin, Jags coming up 107, 182. Holland Pierce for the Rams. And the Lions going Billy Bowman. Darius Alexander not drafted. So here is what we got. I love this draft for the Cardinals. Tyler Booker traded back in the first 1 pick. Got a 2nd-round pick next year from the Saints. Tyleik Williams in the 2nd I thought was a steal, as was Isaiah Bond in the 3rd. I thought the Falcons did an excellent job of getting value as in terms of need to the board. So building the trenches up at the first 2, getting some weaponry for Kyler Murray in the 3rd round. Really liked it for Atlanta as well. I thought Mykel Williams was a home run pick for the Atlanta Falcons in the first round, sticking and picking. Trey Amos, we traded back a couple spots, got a 4th-round pick, and still got a corner that I think could help out A.J. Terrell in that secondary there, where they really need to upgrade that defense. So I really like the Cardinals more, but I thought both teams got really solid value out of their picks here. And that's the show for today, y'all. Enjoy UFL, enjoy March Madness, whatever else y'all are watching. UFL Week 2 is coming up next Monday. On Friday, we're doing the Dolphins and Colts mock draft. We'll do the Cowboys 49ers next Monday. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X, FAA_bets on X as well. Posted a UFL bet today, so hopefully y'all tailed. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and TikTok at FAA.podcast. We will see y'all back for Football Friday. Enjoy the weekend.